Good evening, Council. Good evening, members of staff and the public that are joining us virtually this evening. Due to our inclement weather policy, we decided to move this meeting to virtual this evening. I must admit, having to do this at every meeting was not much fun. But being able to adapt to this kind of a format on an evening like tonight is quite comforting. So thank you to staff for making that happen very quickly, and welcome to everyone. We have quorum, so we'll get started. I wanted to let you all know that this meeting is being audio, video recorded, and live streamed on the Town of Innisfil's YouTube channel and shall form part of the record, which will be retained in accordance to the town's retention bylaw. And for more information about that bylaw, you can contact the clerk's office. Today is Anti-Bullying Day, Pink Shirt Day. I don't have a pink shirt. I have somewhat a pink shirt, but that's as close as I could get. Councillor Constantine, I can see you're right in your pink today. Good for you. So we'll start now with the land acknowledgement, and Councillor Waters is delivering the acknowledgement this evening.
Thank you, Your Worship. The town of Innisfil acknowledges that the town is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. The town also acknowledges that this land is the traditional territories of the First Peoples of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Anishinaabe peoples of Beaujolais First Nation, Chippewas of Rama First Nation, the Chippewas of Georgina First Nation, and we thank them for their generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still the home of many Indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges the forced sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect for all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. We'll now go to open forum and ask the clerk if there's been anyone who has registered for open forum this evening.
Thank you, Your Worship. No, we have not had any persons registered.
Thank you. Next, we will go to item 3, which is approval of the agenda, and mover and a seconder, please, to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Zanella. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of interest on tonight's meeting? Any pecuniary or conflict of interest? Seeing no hands at this time, if one becomes apparent to you during our conversations, please feel free to bring it forward at that time, and clerks will provide you with the necessary paperwork. Next is item 5, presentations and petitions. And the first item we have tonight is from MPAC, the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. And I'll turn it over to Director Lee. Did you want to introduce, or shall we just go straight to the presentation? The presenters are Nicole Lafrance, the Account Manager. Are you with us, Nicole? Welcome.
Hi. Yes, I am here.
Welcome. Whenever you're ready, please feel free.
Good evening, and thank you for having me here today. Like we said, my name is Nicole Lafrance, and I'm the account manager with Municipal and Stakeholder Relations at MPAC. And also on the call today is Lynn Cunningham, the regional manager. I'd first like to take a minute and congratulate all council members on their elections. I look forward to working with you throughout 2023 and beyond, and know that we are here to help, and we have a whole municipal and stakeholder relations team who can answer any questions you have. Next slide, please. At MPAC, we are Ontario's property experts. Our job is to assess and classify more than 5.5 million properties across Ontario worth a combined value of more than $3 trillion. In the past year, Ontario has grown by approximately 45,000 new residential homes, and in 2022, we added more than $37 billion to Ontario's assessment rolls. Every municipality uses our assessments to make informed decisions about their community, including the distribution of property taxes. Ontario's property tax system and these assessments generate approximately $30 billion in tax revenue annually. Next slide. There are 4 key players in Ontario's property assessment and taxation system, and all have a different role and interest in this process. The provincial government, specifically the Ministry of Finance, is responsible for setting assessment and taxation legislation as well as policies. They also determine the education property tax rate. There is also an independent body that adjudicates appeals of MPAC's assessed values, the ARB, or Assessment Review Board. And MPAC is an independent, not-for-profit corporation funded by all Ontario municipalities. Our role is to accurately assess and classify all properties in Ontario. We do this in compliance with the Assessment Act and regulations set by the Government of Ontario. We are all accountable to the province, municipalities, and property taxpayers of Ontario through a board of directors that is comprised of provincial, municipal, and taxpayer representatives appointed by the Minister of Finance. And municipalities determine their budget requirements, set tax rates, and collect property taxes to pay for municipal services. Municipalities use MPAC's assessments and the established tax rates to distribute their tax requirement to ratepayers. And finally, the property owners. They pay the property tax bill and help set market value through ongoing property purchases and sales. Next slide. So as you can imagine, maintaining Ontario's property database is very important. Property data is continuously updated so that municipal records are accurate when our municipal stakeholders are making important tax decisions. Maintaining Ontario's property database includes inspecting and assessing new construction, additions, and renovations promptly, responding to property owner inquiries, and working to help them understand assessment. Supporting municipalities through offering Municipal Connect, where our municipal stakeholders can obtain the primary source of assessment-related information. We have an important statutory duties, such as handling requests for reconsideration and maintaining people data by tracking school support for over 5.5 million properties. Next slide. So monitoring the market and assessing newly built and renovated properties are things we do every day to keep our property data current. We also periodically update every single property assessment in Ontario based on the same legislated valuation date. We call this an assessment update or a reassessment. The valuation date for the most recent assessment update, which took effect in 2017, was January 1st of 2016. This is when we determined what every single property in Ontario could have reasonably sold for in its current state and condition at a particular point in time. Regular revaluation of properties ensures that assessments stay up to date and similar properties of similar value in the same municipality pay similar property taxes. Provincial legislation determines when MPAC conducts each province-wide assessment update and sets the valuation date for each update cycle. Next slide. The reassessment that was scheduled to occur in 2020 was postponed by the province to provide stability and certainty to Ontarians and to enable municipalities to focus on responding to the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, property assessments continue to be based on a legislated valuation date of January 1st, 2016. MPAC continues to maintain and update the assessment roll to reflect changes such as new construction and improvements to properties. For new buildings or structures, MPAC determines the value as of January 1st, 2016 to ensure equity when comparing to existing properties. Next slide. Ontario's property tax system is based on everyone paying their portion of what it costs to deliver community services. To do this, all properties are assigned a value at a common valuation date, as noted in the prior slide. This is a principle called current value assessment. This is the price a property might reasonably be expected to sell if sold by a willing seller to a willing buyer after appropriate time and exposure on an open market. Next slide. So let's talk briefly about valuation. In Ontario, there are 3 industry-wide standardized approaches to valuing properties. And the first of these approaches is the direct comparison approach. And this valuation approach is used primarily for residential properties, condos, and vacant land. With this approach, we analyze recent sales of comparable properties that were sold for a similar or identical use as the property to be valued to provide an indication of value. It's also important that only valid open market transactions are used in this analysis. Next slide. So when we're looking at valuation of a residential home, although our analysis tool considers over 200 factors, the above 5 factors make up approximately 85% of a typical home's value. And they include location, lot dimensions, exterior square footage, quality of construction of the home, and the age of the property, which gets adjusted for any major renovations or additions that have occurred. Next slide. So next is the income approach. This approach is used for industrial malls, large medical or dental buildings, office buildings, shopping centers, and large sports stadiums. In income-producing properties, the ability to earn revenue is directly tied to its current value. To value these properties, we need to determine how much revenue it could generate, as well as the sale price. To clarify, it's not the revenue being generated by the occupant, but rather the rent that the occupant is paying the landlord that we use to value properties using the income approach. And this method requires a detailed analysis of income and expenses, both for the property being valued and other similar properties, to determine how much income a property could be expected to generate if sold on the open market. And those 2 factors create a capitalization rate that helps us determine the property's assessed value. Next slide. Oh, sorry, go back one. And the cost approach is last. So this is typically used for general purpose industrial properties, small retail, and warehousing, just to name a few. And this approach is used when a property type is unique and rarely sold on the open market, as we cannot rely on either the direct comparison or income approaches to determine its current value due to a lack of data. The cost approach is a 3-step process. And first, we calculate the cost of replacing buildings, structures, or other accessible fixtures on the land. And then we apply a deduction for depreciation on all structures due to age, as well as any functional or economic adjustments. And finally, we determine the value of the land and add it to the building calculations to produce an overall valuation. Next slide. So what draws our attention to a property? It's typically one of the following things. There's a market sale, a request from a property owner or the municipality, a building permit activity, if there's a request for reconsideration or an appeal. So MPAC's role is to take building permits and plans and turn them into assessment. Our municipal stakeholders rely on MPAC assessments to levy property tax. The sooner MPAC can deliver assessment, the sooner our municipal stakeholders can realize new revenue. Every year, MPAC processes on average 300,000 building permits for new development or renovations. We are the only organization with a data set of all building permits in Ontario, and our understanding of this data gives us a unique perspective on ways to modernize its collection in exchange to support our municipal partners. So here are some insights based on the data that we have captured. In 2021, Ontario saw more than 48,000 new residential homes constructed, with just under 50% being detached homes. And did you know that condos are getting smaller, but detached homes are getting bigger? Ontario condominiums are 35% smaller on average than they were 25 years ago. while the average detached home is 25% larger. In the 1990s, the average condominium in Ontario peaked at approximately 1,100 square feet. And the most recent MPAC data shows the average condo today is about 700 square feet. In comparison, a single-family detached homes were approximately 2,000 square feet in the mid-90s, and today a typical single-family home is around 2,500 square feet. Next slide. So after we assess a property or change in assessment, we mail the property owner a property assessment notice. And sometimes property owners do not agree with our assessed value. A property owner might connect with you to let you know that they disagree with our assessment, but it's important to remember that the property assessments are not taxation. If you do get an inquiry, you can help us by asking the property owner a few questions. First being, if they could have sold their property on January 1st, 2016 for the assessed value. Second, if they visited About My Property to review the information that MPAC has on file regarding their property to ensure it's correct. Third, if they've used About My Property to conduct comparable research on assessment values in their area. And lastly, if a property owner still disagrees with their assessment, they do have the option to file a request for reconsideration, and we'll review it free of charge. There is also an ability to file an appeal with the Assessment Review Board. And the fastest way is to start a review by filing an RFR on About My Property, but property owners can also file just on mpac.ca website. Next slide. So let's spend a moment to address the relationship between property taxes and assessment. Assessments distribute taxes, they do not determine the taxes paid. When a province-wide assessment update occurs, the most important factor is not how much the assessed value of a property has changed, but rather how the assessed value has changed relative to the average change in class in that community. And this concept is explained in a recent MPAC toolkit that has been shared with municipalities. Next slide. So in anticipation of the next province-wide reassessment, we have implemented a strategy to address the misconceptions about the relationship between assessed value and taxation, including resources for municipalities that will ensure when an announcement is made, we're ready with the support you need. This digital toolkit is available on mpac.ca and can help municipalities, including yourselves, elected officials, mitigate the misinformation and provide support and resources to educate and inform property owners. In the digital toolkit, you can find a new video titled How Your Property Taxes Are Calculated based on the assessed value of your home. It's a great video, and we're going to take the 3 minutes to try and play it here on the next slide. I just have to click to the next slide, and it should play.
Property taxes are based on your home's value. What you might not know is that an increase in your home's value doesn't necessarily mean your taxes will go up. To explain, let's take a look at how your property taxes are calculated. Imagine there's a town that only has 3 homes, and they're each worth a different amount. The total cost to provide all of the town's services is $1,200. This is collected through property taxes. Each homeowner pays property taxes based on their home's assessed value. So we take the total cost of services and divide it by the total property value. This tax rate is applied to all the houses to get enough money to pay for the town's services. Each homeowner pays according to the assessed value of their home, and every 4 years, the houses are reassessed. Let's say all 3 properties have gone up equally in value. The total cost of services hasn't changed, but the total property value has increased. When this happens, there will be a decrease in the tax rate. Now, when we apply that new rate on all the homes, everyone still pays the same. Now, let's say another 4 years has gone by, and these homes are reassessed. During this time, the house on the right gains more market value than the other 2. The total value of all the homes have increased, which means the town has to calculate a new tax rate. With this new tax rate, the first two homes will actually pay less than the home on the right that was reassessed at a higher value. Since the cost of services hasn't changed, the town doesn't need to collect more property taxes on the whole. However, since property taxes are based on a home's value, taxes for each individual home could potentially go up or down based on the rest of the homes. So, what happens when the cost to provide services goes up? Well, it means more property taxes need to be collected from every home, and a new tax rate is calculated. To get the new rate, we take that amount that the town now needs and divide it by all of the property values. The new rate is applied to all the homes, and now everyone has to pay the new tax amount to continue to fund the town's services. So, let's review. 1. Property taxes are based on the assessed value of a home. If all assessments go up equally, everyone pays the same. 2. If all assessments do not go up equally, there's a redistribution of the tax. 3. If the town's cost to provide services increases, the municipality may choose to increase the tax rate. When this happens, everyone pays their share of that increase. And that explains the relationship between property value and property taxes.
This video is also available to rewatch on YouTube as well. So I want to say thanks for having me here today. If not already, make sure you subscribe to In Touch, our monthly municipal e-newsletter, and that can be done through mpac.ca. We also have the Library of Digital Resources available. And be sure to reach out to myself, your local MPAC account representative, if you do have any questions or are looking for certain resources. And mine and Lynn's contact information is on the next slide. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very, very helpful. Questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a question from me who is interested in sustainability. So my question is, can the impact be used to encourage people to build greener homes in terms of, so the example is that if I go to build a greener home, it costs me more money, the house is worth more money, so I pay more taxes. So although my energy might go down, I'm no further ahead because the house is now worth more because of all the green retrofits or the green additions I put in the house. So is there any way, can the town use that, or can Impact use that to encourage a more sustainable construction or community?
Or Lynn?
Sorry, through your worship to Councillor Waters. The assessments, they'll be based off of market value. So I'm not sure of an incentive that MPAC would be able to provide. We do have to make sure to assess equitably among all neighbors and regarding market sales.
Okay, I'm just going by my own personal example in terms of what we did. It says that, you know, we built an energy efficient house to save money on energy, but my taxes went up by the same amount. So at the end of the day, I'm no further ahead. So it doesn't, I'm just looking for how do we incentivize people to build better homes? And, you know, this may not be the best tool to do that. Thank you.
Ms. Cunningham, did you have something to add?
Just that the greener homes is becoming more and more popular, and definitely it would be something that we would consider in terms of a variable, but it isn't necessarily something that impacts value. But we would certainly continue to analyze it as more and more energy efficient homes are coming up on stream to the market.
Thank you very much.
Other questions or comments? Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering, you said the last assessment was 2016. Are you looking to release a new one in the near future?
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Saunders. We are waiting for the provincial government to release a new reassessment date. So we are ready for when that date comes, but we are still waiting, and they are the ones who provide us that date. So that's the provincial government.
Great, thank you very much.
I can add to that, Councillor Saunders, just by saying that the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and other organizations are encouraging the province. They have been engaging and asking if what municipalities think, and AMO is suggesting sooner rather than later that it's time. We don't want to have it go out of date like it did many years ago. Anyone else have questions? I just had a couple of comments. I can tell you, I'd already written down video, because I can tell you I have distributed that video hundreds and hundreds of times. It's a difficult concept for people to understand, and quite often when those reassessment letters come out and people see that, well, now from 2016, and of course with the way property values have risen, and they're going to see that new, they're going to see their house price double, and they're going to think their property taxes are going to double, and we're all going to get panic calls. So it's really important to push out all of that information, and we certainly can do our part to help push out that information to everyone as well, because it is hard to understand, and people do definitely confuse property taxes with assessments. I just had one other question if nobody else has one, and that's was this the last municipal election that MPAC was responsible for the voters list?
That's right. If there's a by-election, then we will still be responsible. It officially transfers to Elections Ontario, January 1st, 2024.
Great, thank you. And I'm sure you're not upset about that. All right, seeing no other questions or comments, I want to thank you both very much, and appreciate you joining us virtually this evening and explaining that. And if there's anything else we can do to help, when the province does pull the trigger and it's time, if you want us to help, promote understanding or education with this, we'd be happy to participate in that. And with that, I'd ask for a mover and a seconder to move in the recommendation that's on the table. Councillor Waters and Councillor Saunders. All those in favor? That is carried. Thanks again for being here. Appreciate it very much. Our next delegation is our very own Innisfil Community Foundation, and we welcome members of the foundation to turn on their cameras and join us. I saw there's Ann Smith, Ann Kell, Howard Courtney, and Chair Rizzardo is here as well. And I believe it's almost 3 years to the day. It was the first time that we heard from you when you came to, I think it was our last council meeting before in the council chambers before we moved into COVID. So we welcome you here today virtually again, unfortunately, but if there was one good thing out of COVID, it's that we were able to pivot and keep everybody home safe. So whenever you're ready.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm not sure what's happening with my video, so I apologize. Good evening, Mayor Dolan, Deputy Mayor Fowler, Council, CAO Gershow, and town staff. I'm Sandra Rizzardo, Chair of Innisfil Community Foundation's Board of Directors, and with me tonight is Vice Chair Howard Courtney, President Ann Kell, and Treasurer Ann Smith. It is our pleasure to be online with you tonight for the third year in a row. I can't believe it, but some members of council will remember this. But for our newly elected councillors, the last time that the Innisfil Community Foundation Board of Directors presented in person was the day before COVID-19 was declared a global pandemic. Over the past 3 years, Innisfil Community Foundation has made a distinct impact on our community, an impact made possible thanks to the support and generosity of Innisfil Town Council. Because of your commitment, we were able to ignite and inspire the community, creating a better Innisfil for everyone. Next slide, please.
I'm happy to report that in 2022, we invested a total of $111,950 in charities supporting Innisfil residents. These grants were made possible by your continued support, not only financially through Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation funding, but also through your continued support at the annual Mayor's Golf Tournament and initiatives such as your Innisfil sweater sales with proceeds directed to the foundation. We hope that you realize how deeply your support impacts our community. And to that end, Mayor Dolan and members of council, tonight we look forward to sharing some of the highlights of your generosity over the past year. Next slide, please. We take seriously our responsibility to ensure that community grants go where they are needed most. Our number one priority is supporting Innisfil residents, and our granting decisions reflect that. Through our granting, we are privileged to speak for those who may not have a voice. To make sure our grants have the most impact, we keep our fingers on the pulse of the community. Last year, we continued to embrace our convening role by hosting the Charity Roundtable you see on your screen, bringing together representatives from charities that serve Innisfil residents. We are thrilled by how well we've been accepted by these local charities and to hear how needed these types of conversations are, especially during these times. I'm sure it comes as no surprise, but we learned that 2022 was another difficult year for our community. Although we were finally emerging from the pandemic, many of our friends, neighbors, and loved ones continue to suffer from the pandemic's lasting effects. Mental health, substance abuse, and grief are plaguing our community, as many struggle to keep their heads above water as inflation soars. Next slide, please.
Before I share some of the more specific details about what the foundation has been up to, let me just say thank you again to the council that by initiating the formation of this foundation, you've chosen to distance yourself from the appearance of showing any favoritism to donors who want to invest in the people of Innisfil. It's also important that we all understand, and anyone that's joining us online watching, that none of the funds that we use comes from the municipal taxes paid by residents. Some of the funds are directed to us through the reinvestment funds of Gateway Casino operations, and other funds come from places like the Mayor's Golf Tournament, and the rest from a variety of donors who wish to make our community stronger. But several of our 2022 grants made a direct impact on folks in our community who are struggling with rising costs. We granted $15,000 to Christmas for Kids for their winter clothing program. C4K's clients list continues to grow to meet the needs of families in our community who are struggling. And these funds were used to provide families with warm winter boots, coats, snow pants, and snowsuits. We also supported Contact Community Services, Community Hope Chest, with a grant of $8,000, and Shine Through the Rain Foundation, Innisfil Rainy Day Fund, with a grant of $5,000. And these funds particularly help people facing life-challenging illnesses by covering some of the costs they have for parking and gas and groceries and more. Last year, Shine Through the Rain, the foundation, reached out to us because one of their clients needed a wheelchair. And we connected them with another agency that helps people with mobility challenges, and they were able to help. Part of our networking function is very helpful. Our community knowledge helps make these connections to reduce duplication of efforts and helps the charity's dollars stretch even further. We helped organizations who are trying to get their clients out of the crushing isolation of the past few years, including a grant to $5,000 to the Deaf Blind Foundation towards a new van to help the residents in their Innisfil location get back out into the community. We also made a $6,000 grant to the Empower Simcoe Hospitality Program that gives caregivers a chance to get a break, allowing them to get out of the house from looking after one of their loved ones and maybe visit a local restaurant or go golfing or have some entertainment. And we also help connect Empower Simcoe with local attractions to help support the program as well. Next slide, please. It was our pleasure once again to support the Innisfil Farmers Market through a partnership with the Innisfil YMCA, supporting our local agricultural sector and to help foster the community connections. On a side note, we want to congratulate Innisfil Farmers Market, who today was being awarded from the Farmers Market of Ontario, the Farmers Market of the Year award. Just happened today in Niagara Falls at the Ontario Fruit and Vegetable Convention. And so we congratulate them, and they just did so well. We also helped Innisfil Pipes and Drums, another community institution, to get back on their feet after the COVID hiatus. Next slide, please. As in previous years, mental health and healing continued to be an important focus of our foundation. In 2022, we renewed our support with the Catholic Family Services Youth Call program with a $16,450 grant. And this collaborative program brings in resources from several agencies across South Simcoe and has had an incredible impact on our youth. We also made a $10,000 grant to Royal Victoria Hospital's Rapid Access Addiction Medical Clinic, which supported 69 Innisfil residents with addiction and recovery in 2020. For the first time, we made a $9,600 grant to Seasons Center for Grieving Children. This grant supported 12 children from Innisfil to attend their peer support programs. And over the past 5 years, Seasons Center has supported close to 100 Innisfil children, youth, and families who are bereaved, in addition to some students from Goodfellow Public School and Nantyre Shores Secondary School. We want to take a moment to focus on a couple of other grants related to mental health in our community. Next slide, please.
Innisfil Community Foundation has made a $5,000 grant to CMHA, York and South Simcoe's Mobile Youth Walking Clinic bus, or MOBIS program. It's an incredible program that brings confidential access to mental health, supports and sexual health rights to the youth in our community who might be too scared or embarrassed to reach out for it if this bus was not there. This is Ontario's first mobile walk-in clinic for youth that provides primary care and mental health care to individuals between the ages of 12 to 25. Their services are completely free, anonymous, and do not require a health card. The board had an opportunity to tour the bus and learn about the services and that the staff provide. We were so impacted by this visit. It really blew us away. So we hope that everybody acknowledges the hard work that these people are doing for our young people. Next slide.
The final mental health grant that we want to highlight tonight was the $20,000 donation that was made to South Simcoe Police and CMHA last spring in order to fund the Crisis Outreach and Support Team, the COAST program, for 1 extra day each week through to the end of 2022. COAST attends live crisis situations and provides support to people in crisis and to their families. A mental health professional and a specially trained police officer in plain clothes respond in an unmarked vehicle to provide pre-crisis support to facilitate referrals to appropriate community support providers while diverting those cases from hospital emergency departments to the other care providers. And when we learned of the tragic deaths of South Simcoe Police Constables Morgan Russell and Devin Northrup last fall, we, like everyone else in our community, were devastated, and we wanted to help in some way. We're honored tonight to announce that we have extended this funding to Coast to cover the shift through to the end of 2023 in honor of our fallen heroes. Next slide, please. We're proud of the work that was done in 2022 and how Innisfil Community Foundation has persevered through some significant changes to our organization this year. Jen Ray, our previous executive director, who had been with us from the beginning, left to pursue a new role last year. We're grateful to Jen for continuing to support Innisfil Community Foundation part-time over the past few months. With Jen's help, we supported the family of fallen Constable Devin Northrup by creating the Devin Northrup Memorial Fund, which to date has raised over $25,000. Jen's involvement over the past few months was also key in securing a significant amount of federal funds for Innisfil Community Foundation, which we'll share more about momentarily. So as you can imagine, navigating this change was a lot of work for our volunteer board of directors. And we're grateful to the town of Innisfil's Director of People and Talent, Francesca Figluzzi, for her support and guidance over the past few months. And we're thrilled to share that as of January 1st, we've had Whitney Salek come on board as our new executive director. Whitney entered the fundraising sector in 2017 after beginning her career in community journalism. With prior roles at Stevenson Memorial Hospital Foundation and the Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation, Whitney is proud to join the Innisfil Community Foundation as an Innisfil resident herself. Whitney earned her Certified Fundraising Executive designation in 2021 and also volunteers with the Rotary Club of Innisfil and the Association of Fundraising Professionals. Although she's only been with us a short time, Whitney has jumped right in and proven herself to be an excellent leader. We look forward to working closely with Whitney and doing incredible things for our community. Next slide, please. And Whitney has definitely jumped right into the fire because, as we hinted at earlier, Innisfil Community Foundation is participating in a national funding program called the Community Services Recovery Fund. It's a federal grant funded by the Government of Canada and operated through Community Foundations of Canada. Innisfil Community Foundation has received an incredible $285,000 to allocate to community organizations, and Whitney has been working hard to support local charities through their applications. These grants are designed to allow organizations to adapt and modernize by investing in themselves. The federal government has designated $400 million across our country to strengthen the internal capacity of community service organizations facing both immediate and long-term impacts from the COVID pandemic. These grants are being allocated through community foundations like ICF and also United Way and the Red Cross. Applications closed yesterday and grant recipients will be announced later this spring. So stay tuned for even more good news from us. And this isn't the first time that Innisfil has benefited from our connection to Community Foundations of Canada. In 2020, we were fortunate to receive federal funding to support Innisfil serving charities to the tune of $125,000. When the Government of Canada announced the Emergency Community Support Fund in 2020, we jumped at the chance to deliver additional funds to help our community. Just some of the 12 organizations who received assistance include Imani's Place, the YMCA of Muskoka, Simcoe Muskoka, Christmas for Kids, Gilda's Club Simcoe Muskoka, and many others. Through our connection to Community Foundations of Canada, Innisfil Community Foundation continues to leverage critical federal funds like these that will strengthen the organizations in our community for our community. If Innisfil Community Foundation didn't exist, our local organizations would have to seek funding from other community foundations in other municipalities, and that would very much reduce their likelihood of receiving critical funds. Next slide, please.
It's been said that community foundations have a unique ability to serve the community because they operate with a bird's eye view of needs and opportunities. As we look at the charities Innisfil Community Foundation supported in 2022 and reflect back on the impact of the past 3 years, we believe that holds a lot of truth. After 3 years in our community, We are happy to say that we are now part of Innisfil's fabric. We have witnessed the power of our community foundation, not only in our own grants, but through the connections we have made and how we have inspired others to give. None of this would have been possible without the support of council and our community. We're grateful for the foresight of past town councils and thank you, the new term of council, for continuing to support our community through your commitment to Innisfil Community Foundation. Innisfil Community Foundation is an example of a community coming together. We are truly building something special here together. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for continuing to place your faith in Innisfil Community Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry I couldn't find my mute button there for a minute. Wonderful presentation. Questions, comments from members of council? Councillor Waters.
I just want to say thank you very much for all the hard work that they do. It's great to see these deserving groups that get the funding that they need. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to provide the necessary help that kids need, that seniors need, that just the community needs in general. So I just want to thank them for all their hard work and the good work that they do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Anyone else? Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I would echo Councillor Waters' comments. It was definitely 3 years ago when we had that last meeting before COVID that our council couldn't have known that this step to create this foundation would have this much of an impact. And I really do want to thank the volunteers on the board, the current board of directors, for being the face of the community and knowing the needs and coming through for our residents. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Ices. I'm not seeing any other hands, so I'll just I'll add to that. So you had to pivot so quickly. Like the presentation that you made to us in March 2020 about how you were going to move forward changed overnight, literally. And you did it, and we, I could argue now that it's like we had a crystal ball, and we knew we were going to need you guys, and you were there. And Sandra, you mentioned about what an impact all of these people make that work for all these charities. Well, I would argue it's you four that's making such an impact in our community. And I want to thank you so much for your hours and hours and hours and hours of volunteer work. And I know it's difficult when you lose somebody like Jen, but I'm so happy that you found Whitney. And welcome, Whitney. And I hope you enjoy the work as with your foundation, and how much we appreciate all of you. So thank you so much for that. So with that, well, thank you for coming here tonight. Looking forward to hearing more good news stories in the future. And I would ask for a mover and a seconder, please, to receive the presentation regarding the Innisfil Community Foundation annual update be received with great thanks. Councillor Drodge and Deputy Mayor Fowler, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Next, we'll move on to we have number 6, which is delegations. We have no delegations this evening, so we'll move on to item number 7, county council, municipal associations, any of the appointments that were made through council to ask you to represent us in different boards and commissions. Now is the time to bring any updates from those boards and commissions that you'd like to share. Councillor or Deputy Mayor Fowler, do you have an update from county? I wasn't able to be at county this past week, so it's up to you.
Well, there was just business as usual. Everything went according to plan. I'd like to announce that I was voted in as vice chair of the Economic Development Subcommittee for the County of Simcoe, so I'm very grateful for that opportunity. But overall, just as the as the Premier said, it's all tickety-boo.
Okay. Anyone else have any boards? Councillor Ices?
Thank you, Worship. I am going to have my first Nanawasaga Valley Conservation Authority meeting this Friday. I missed the opening meeting. At that time, committees were struck, and I'm going to represent the Agricultural Committee that is on the NVCA. So I look forward to doing that.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? Councillor Drodge.
I too have my first LSRCA meeting this Friday. I'm really excited to get to work there, and yeah, I'll be giving you guys an update shortly. Thanks.
Great, big learning curves, but you can count on Councillor Waters to help you if you need any assistance there. Thank you. Councillor Zanella.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did attend the first South Simcoe Streams meeting, and they're in the process right now of looking for someone to place Sylvia, who was the environmental liaison person. So at the moment, we're in the process of setting up some site plans and planting trees for 2023. So I'll have some more information on that later on.
Lovely, thank you for sharing. Seeing no more hands, we'll move to our consent agenda list. So here we go with this. I feel like a bingo game when I do this sometimes, but A1 is the special council meeting minutes dated February the 8th. A2, the council meeting minutes dated February the 8th.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, Councillor Constantine's got her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Constantine, I didn't see your hand. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. We've got these little cards. We didn't have time to distribute them all yet, but they're we use them when we do virtual meetings. Request to speak, yes and no, so that you can vote, and we'll make sure everybody gets a set of these in case we have to do this again. So there were no reports for various committees. Item C1, the statutory holidays for 2023. C2, the CPPS for 950 Shoreview Drive. C3, the Giant Rocking Horse first right of refusal. Councillor Ices, refer to committee.
Yes, please.
All right, and then staff reports for information. D1, the staff report about Huron Court Park. Councillor Waters.
I just have a couple of questions. I don't need to pull it at all, just for staff. I just wanted to get a timeline on when the staff think that phase 2 of putting the ice rink in will happen, because phase 1 is just for infrastructure.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins.
Through your worship to Councillor Waters, sorry. We will be reviewing the 10-year plan as we finalize the update to the Land and Lakes plan. So that's our Parks and Recreation Master Plan that is currently underway. So as we work to finalize that in the coming months, we will be identifying when that phase 2 will be programmed for.
Okay, thank you. And my second question has to do with the pathway that's being installed. I'm just kind of curious. These are times when we can choose alternative materials for pathways, and since asphalt is a fossil-based product, when we do the tenders for these types of things, do we request alternative materials that could be used that would be more sustainable?
Ms. Jenkins?
Through your worship to Councillor Waters, We have had many internal discussions about the different materials that can be used for these paths. We've also had lots of consultation with LSRCA and our accessibility committee as well. And usually we end up moving forward with asphalt trails for these types of trails, in particular where they're located close to schools to allow for better accessibility.
Okay, thank you very much. And just on part of that community, I've been out there several times, and they were glad to see their soccer field finally open up. So they're happy with that. And I think they got new hoops. So they're happy with that. And I'm sure they'll be very happy when they see the infrastructure going in for the future ice rink, because I'm sure they'll appreciate that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? I had a couple, Ms. Jenkins, too. So we're moving this money from Webster Park so we can plan with the Orsi development. Do we have any idea when, and you're probably not the right person to ask, but is there any timeline for Orsi moving forward?
Through you, Your Worship, we are also looking at that piece of property and that larger park area as part of the Land and Lakes plan. So we should be bringing something forward with recommendations for timing and scope of that park shortly to council.
Thank you. And I'm with Councillor Waters on the skating rink. I was sorry to see that piece. Over 50% identified it as a priority in the survey that we did. So I was sad to see that piece not make the cut, and hopefully we can do it sooner rather than later. But I know everything's a priority. The paths are supposed to help so people can drop off on those back streets versus on Innisfil Beach Road for Alcona Glen schools. So we've agreed that we would maintain them as far as plowing the snow in the wintertime to encourage parents to drop off behind the school and let the kids walk on the path. So we'll see how that goes. And then my final comment, and I hate to make it, but I'm going to anyway, is when we design these parks, do we take into account vandalism and how to protect ourselves from vandalism?
Through you, Your Worship, and I'm not sure if there's anybody from operations that also wants to jump in on this here tonight. But yes, we try to look at environmental ways that we can reduce vandalism, usually for our design. So that is definitely taken into account with environmental factors and then other factors as well that get built into the design of these park spaces to ensure public safety.
Thank you. Any other questions for this item? Seeing none, item D2, the staff report customer service delivery update. I had a question, if no one else does. And first of all, excellent report. Very much appreciated. I'm glad to see numbers stabilizing, but I wondered about the report centers on like numbers of calls and how quickly we can resolve them. But I wondered, I think I've seen one and I can't remember when, but a report that would cover things like not the 70% that we resolve right away, but the ones that that we open an inquiry for, package them in categories, like how many are about speeding, how many are about, you know, neighbor issues, how many are about flooding. Like, would it be possible to get something? I'm sure I've seen something like that in the past, but Ms. Beagle?
Thank you, Your Worship. That is something that we have been working on, and we built into our new dashboards that were recently launched with council so that council can see that activity based on ward, because it does vary from ward to ward. And certainly as we start to put more information out on our website to the public, we will be including information along that lines as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Item D3, the Economic Development Strategic Plan. Item E1, a bylaw to amend a bylaw providing for reduced load periods for the town. Item F1, correspondence from Bradford, West Gwillimbury to regarding the Lake Simcoe Freshwater Action Plan. Councillor Drodge, refer to committee. You're on mute, Councillor. You want to, oh, there you go.
Yeah, yes, please. I'd like to refer to the committee.
Wonderful. Then we have a number of correspondence for information, county council meeting highlights, a wonderful thank you letter from the Christmas for Kids group, a proclamation about amyloidosis, I hope I said that right, awareness, and the It Starts campaign. If you haven't done your It Starts campaign yet, I'm sure staff will be hounding you to do that. And that's it. So a mover and a seconder then to approve everything with the exception of the two items that were pulled. Councillor Waters and Councillor Drodge. All those in favor? That is carried. Next, we'll go to moving into resolving into committee of the whole. A mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Fowler and Councillor Richardson. All those in favor? Carried. And we'll go to item C3. And that was Councillor Ices who pulled that item.
Thank you, Worship. I have provided a revised resolution, and I was hoping to get a councillor to second that for me. Councillor Dodge. Okay, just while you're maybe reading my resolution, I thought I would maybe share a little bit of the history behind the giant rocking horse outside of the staff report that was provided. So for those of you who are recent residents, you might not know that the Camp Mart property on Innisfil Beach Road at the 400 used to be a furniture store and wood shop, and that was a business owned by Janet and Bill Monroe. It was Pine Bun Monroe. They made excellent antique furniture, antique looking, the pine, the oak, the maple, the 4-post beds, and they were, in Innisfil business, and they worked hard, and they started in 1978. And when the recession hit in 2008, the Monroes were looking for an idea to help their business to maybe stand out and try and get through that difficult economic time. So they, in their store, they would create a lot of little rocking horses that were very popular. So they thought, let's make a Guinness World Record horse. So I believe it was Jill, Janet and Bill's daughter, and her husband, Jesse, started on that project. They called the Guinness World Book of Records to see what dimensions they needed to achieve this record. And then they started on this project. They talked to their suppliers, as in 2008, there was the recession was hitting everybody. There was extra material around. The suppliers donated the wood that they needed for the project, for the giant rocking horse. Then they had a bit of a work bee in the Thanksgiving weekend in 2008. A group of people got together out in a parking lot, and they assembled the Guinness World Record rocking horse. They raised some funds with that work bee, and they donated some money for breast cancer. So it was a great initiative to achieve that record, and it sat outside their store for many years until they sold the property. And then I think that after that, the staff report kind of reflects how it got moved to the Spring Tree Farm. And talking to Spring Tree, they are still amazed how many people drive by it and they stop with their family and the kids and they take pictures during the year. So with that in mind, I changed the motion to allow staff to investigate some options and flesh out some of the costs that might be involved with preserving this unique Innisfil landmark with the intent of possibly moving it to town council and seeing how that can be saved for the future. So that is the history that I wanted to share. So if there's any other comments on that, that'd be great.
Thank you, Councillor Ices. Anyone else? Questions about the motion? Deputy Mayor Fowler and then Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just wondering, is there a way we can potentially work one of the high schools into this as a trade project to save dollars? The idea of for the community fridges that we have, the high school built the framework and the buildings around the fridges to maintain them. This might be something that people be a little more interested in. It would save dollars. It's a great community project. I'm more than open to investigating all options because I know the history of this particular horse as well. And Councillor Ices will agree with me, the heartache that we felt when it was not 2 months out and it was vandalized and then repaired. And then there was it's become part of Innisfil, not as grandiose as many things, but it is still an important part in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I think this is a great idea that I agree with Councillor Ices that, it's a really cool landmark and really cool thing of Innisfil. So I like that we're going to continue to look for some other ideas.
Thank you. Councillor Constantine.
As I was talking to Councillor Ices yesterday, I just like it. I like antique stuff, so I don't want to see it go. I was wondering if you could keep it on the town property or somewhere.
Thank you. So some good options out there. Also, if there was a community group in town or another organization who thought that, this is a project they would like to take on. I had a group of gentlemen from Barrie come and visit me about a month ago. They had a woodworking club in Barrie and they were looking for, I guess, a new home basically is what they were looking for, but they talked about different projects that they'd taken on. And I wondered if something like that would be something they would take on. So I think the good news, and Councillor Ices, you can correct me if I'm wrong, this isn't time sensitive right now. This is because of the county project, but that the county was okay with them leaving it there. If you can expand on that a bit.
Yes. As Spring Tree was talking to the county about their needs for their property, there's a lot of infrastructure right out front with their fence and their trees and everything. So I from what I heard, the recent story was that they were going to work with the county to maybe get an easement. So all of that infrastructure wouldn't have to be moved and the rocking horse would be sitting in that area. So the urgency to move it for construction has kind of subsided. So that would help with this decision. It's not as urgent as it first seemed.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the revised resolution? Any opposed? That's carried. Next is the item regarding, yes, F1, and that was Councillor Drodge.
Thanks, through your worship. I'm looking to get it amended to say that Innisfil supports Bradford West Gwillimbury's resolution. And
I think your amendment's up on the screen there, I believe, Councillor Drodge.
Okay, so yeah, the correspondence of Bradford West Gwillimbury regarding Lake Simcoe freshwater federal funding motion data be received in that the town of Bradford West Gwillimbury and the town of Innisfil supports their recommendation regarding Lake Simcoe freshwater action plan and their federal funding motion. So basically what I'm asking here is I think it's a good thing that they're, trying to get some money from the government to help out with Lake Simcoe. We could always use it, and just support their motion for extra federal funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Waters?
I would second that.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Fowler?
Councillor Waters beat me to the punch.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, and just if you saw in the correspondence, this was a campaign promise prior to the election to reinstate this cleanup fund for Lake Simcoe. So it's just supporting Bradford. And I believe Bradford has sent the resolution to all of the municipalities surrounding Lake Simcoe. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? That's carried. The RISE recommendation, please. A mover and a seconder. For the RISE recommendation, Councillor Richardson and Councillor Ices, all those in favor? That is carried. And then we'll go to consideration to adopt those two committee of the whole resolutions that we just talked about. Deputy Mayor Fowler and Councillor Saunders, all those in favor? That is carried. Next, we have notice of motion from Councillor Waters. And so this would be probably the first time you've seen notices of motion. Maybe I could ask Madam Clerk to just quickly talk about why we give notice of motion and then when we're going to be considering it.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, when council has an idea or an action that they would like to see take place, they can put together a motion. And what they do initially is provide it to clerk's office to be placed on an agenda as a notice. And this gives notice to the public, to staff, to other council members about the type of action or issue they would like to see addressed. And then this motion will become a motion for which notice has been given at the next council meeting where council will consider it on March the 8th.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So there's no discussion on it. It's just an idea of giving you a heads up of what's coming so that between now and the next 2 weeks, you can ask questions, do your homework on the notice. Councillor Waters?
Just another note on that is that if there is a motion that you want to put forward, that the clerk's office is really good at helping you form that motion, and because you'll look at that and they'll say whereas, and how do you write those things? So they're very good at helping you do that. So I would encourage you that if you want to see some changes, you want to push an agenda forward that you think is really important to the community, just approach the clerk's office and they'll help you put that all together for yourself.
Thanks, Councillor Waters. All right, and so I believe there was 2 notices of motion. There's the second one that we'll be dealing with on March the 8th. So I encourage you to ask questions and we'll move on to item 11, which is announcements. So we're gonna go around the clock tonight and give everybody the opportunity. Any announcements from Ward 1, Councillor Ices?
I have none, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any from Ward 2, Councillor Constantine?
Yes. So I just want to say, last night, myself and the mayor went to a renaming ceremony for the Royal Canadian Legion in Lefroy. So the new name now is Innisfil Royal Canadian Innisfil, Legion, branch 547. And also, if you are bored at home and you know want something to do on a Wednesday night, they play darts, and it's a community event, and you can go and make new friends. And also on Friday the 24th, you know that February is History Month. So on Friday the 24th, there will be an online lecture by Dr. Barrington Walker, and the topic is slavery and emancipation in Canada. The time is 2 to 3, and it's sponsored by the Simcoe County.
Thank you. And where's that being held, Councillor Constantine?
Well, it's online. If you go on the Simcoe County, yes. Yeah, and I just want to say that, as the mayor had mentioned before, that today is Pink Shirt Day, and it's also known as Bullying Day, and it raises awareness of bullying and how one act of kindness started a global movement about bullying.
Thank you, Councillor Constantine. Councillor Richardson, Ward 3.
Okay, so just want to just share actually that the Nantyre Triton Music Band, they at Nantyre Shores in Ward 3, they competed last week in the Ontario Band Association, and they came out with a gold and a silver, and it's actually the school's first time in history they've ever actually competed. To come out with a gold and silver is awesome, and they've actually been invited to compete in Niagara Falls in May, which is really, really cool. So they'll be doing some fundraisers. I also wanted to note that on February 11th, a little while ago, the library had hosted its Mosaic of Black Culture event, which was a really great event, as well as this past weekend, Innisfil Community Church held their scavenger hunt, which was really, really awesome. As well as a seed packing party, because coming up on April 1st is the Seedy Saturday. And then lastly, I just wanted to say a quick happy birthday to Councillor Drodge, whose birthday was on Monday.
Thank you so much, Councillor Richardson. Ward 4, Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Worship. I have one item. Last Monday, there was a public open house on flooding strategy and stormwater management master plan, which attracted many people. I had lots of questions myself. Just to let everyone know that the 30-day window for making comment on that plan ends tomorrow. So if you do have comments on that plan, that you should get them in by the end of tomorrow to make a change. And many of those plans were dedicated to Ward 4 down by 9th Line Park. So I encourage residents in that area that if you have some comments, that you make sure you get them heard so that you can be happy with the results that come out of the end of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ward 5, Councillor Zanella. You're on mute, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing at this time.
Thank you. Ward 6, Councillor Saunders.
Thank you. On March 11th, Friday Harbor is having their polar bear dip, and they're trying to get me to jump. So I don't know if I can let Mr. Fowler, the deputy, up me. So I may have to jump on as he's doing this weekend. So we'll see who gets a colder day. And that's about it for my ward.
Okay, I now I know where I'm going to be on March 11th. So Ward 7, Councillor Drodge.
Yeah, I want to still let everybody know that the ice hut operators down here in Guildford are still operating. We've got 3 or 4 operators still out there reporting good ice. I'd say I'm the only ward that has any good ice right now. So I promote those guys, and I hope they still have a good year, and just hope everybody's safe. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Worship. This past weekend was a busy one. We went to the book launch of Maria Kileviv. She's a local artist who I've actually purchased some of her artwork, is a very good friend of mine, at the Moon Cafe, who was kind enough to offer her their space for her. Afterwards, I hit the Historical Society at Knock Community Hall. That was actually really cool. We braided some rope. I taught my 11-year-old how to sew a little bit. There was a lot of interesting details there from the days back past, and it was actually very, very entertaining for the day. Yesterday, we had the BNI Ontario Connections launch. That was the ribbon cutting at the YMCA. The Innisfil branch is now officially a part of the team. Afterwards, we did the 2-year anniversary of Skin Med Spa, which is right beside the 2-for-1 Plaza. They've been in Innisfil a year, and they've been thriving, and they're grateful as ever to be part of our town. So, congratulations on continuing that success. And as Councillor Saunders did mention, on the 25th, this Saturday, I will be going into the lake. I'm taking, as I put it, a cold walk off a short pier. I'm raising money with Ice Corp. Well, Ice Corp is funding it, but I'm trying to raise money for Gilda's Club, Sitka Muskoka. Cancer has touched everybody's life at one point or another. It's deeply impacted mine. So this is something I can do to help support the cause. They're a very, very supportive network. They help the people who are currently going through the cancer treatments, as well as their support networks themselves, so their families, their friends. Those, it's a holistic approach, which I really, really do support. So anybody who wishes to assist, I'd be more than welcome. And you don't have to go in the lake because I'm doing it for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So most of them have been covered, so I won't repeat. But I did just want to make a couple of comments. I did on February 14th attend the state funeral for former Mayor Hazel McCallion. It was very well attended and a fitting tribute for a wonderful lady. There was also a celebration of life hosted by her son Peter afterwards. And there were Lieutenant Governor, there was the Premier, the Prime Minister, and former Prime Minister Chrétien all spoke. But the most wonderful, I believe, the most wonderful and touching speech came from her friend, Fran Ryder, her best friend, Fran Ryder, who is an Innisfil resident here. She spoke as well, and it was just a very touching day. I also helped the auxiliary, South Simcoe Police auxiliary officers hand deliver Valentine's Day cards throughout Sandy Cove Acres. All of the cards were made by the kids in the schools, and I was blown away how important a handmade card from a child that they never knew meant to them. But it was a wonderful time. I have a few other announcements, but first I wanted to do a great big thank you to staff who are responsible for our winter weekends. There were 5 weekends in a row, starting with our memorable launch ribbon cutting for our new town square, and culminating with the polar bear plunge on Saturday. There was a lot of staff hours put into this, and not only doing the community events, but working with other community organizations to make sure that everybody was included. And that takes a lot of coordination, and that's a lot of weekends for people who, work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So thank you so much to town staff. I think they were very well received. I received lots of good comments from everyone. And Howard Courtney stole my thunder because I was so excited to get an email late this afternoon from Jamie Grant, the farmers market manager. She's down at the Fruit and Vegetable Conference in Niagara, and the Innisfil Farmers Market was chosen Market of the Year for all the markets in Ontario. So a huge accomplishment for us, and congratulations to her and the Innisfil Farmer Market team for that very big accomplishment. I also want to thank the Innisfil Library for winning the Angus Mowat Award of Excellence. It's an award given out every year for innovative educational programs, and our library won it for their monarch raising program, raising the monarch butterflies. So congratulations, and please, to Councillor Saunders and Richardson, please pass on our thanks and congratulations to the library when you're at your next board meeting. I also want to congratulate our People and Talent group for being named one of Canada's most innovative HR teams. There's a magazine, I think it's called HRD. It's the Human Resources publication that comes out, and Innisfil's team was recognized as being one of Canada's most innovative teams. So congratulations to Francesca and her team. I wanted to just acknowledge that Bradford West Gwillimbury now has announced that they have announced the park that they're going to name in the name of Devon Northrup, and look forward to us attending as they attended the Arena Memorial last week, 2 weeks ago. And I wanted to say a big thank you to Council, but also to Georgian Downs and Gateway Casinos for the tour that they gave all of us earlier this week. And that's all my announcements. Oh, I have one more, and that would be to, on a night like tonight, a peek behind the curtains a bit is we all get to, when it's virtual meeting, we get to be home and safe, but one person has to brave the elements, drive into the town to do all of the work, all of the computers and the live streaming and the YouTube. And so big thank you to superhero Dave Ross from our IT department for going into town hall tonight to manage all of that for us so we could have our meeting. And I've heard that nothing, CAO has no comments tonight. So with that, we'll finish with the confirming bylaw, unless there's anything else anyone has. I don't see anyone. So the confirming bylaw, please, would be moved by Deputy Mayor Fowler and seconded by Councillor Constantine. All those in favor? That is carried. And adjournment moved by Councillor Drudge and seconded by Councillor Zanella, that we adjourn at 8:26 p.m. All those in favor? Thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of the evening, everyone. And we'll see you hopefully back in person very soon. Take care and good night.
Night, everyone.